All right, well, welcome to another Faith Horizons podcast. Today we have with us Dave Panico. And before we start this podcast, before I let John Losh introduce Dave Panico, are you Italian?
Yes, I am. From Chicago.
We got a problem with that around here.
Italian from Chicago. He probably got a violin. You got a 44 stash in his violin.
That's right. I got a big violin at home. So it'd be like a big violin case.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, thank you for being on the show, Dave.
Yeah, you're welcome. Glad to be here.
So, John, how did you meet Dave Panico?
I met Dave at the Smithville Christian Family Day.
You like meeting people at the Smithville?
I do love meeting. My kids always said I know everybody.
You do.
I haven't lived in a shell. God,
okay.
I'm thankful that God has blessed me
That's
as
so
an
good.
extrovert.
Yeah.
Because frankly, no offense to people that feel that they are, but I feel like Christian and introvert, oxymoron. It is. We're
could
supposed
be.
to live in community.
It could be. It could be.
Seriously. But anyway, I met him in the at Christian Family Day in Smithville, which I'm thinking I sent you the form for, so maybe we should get a booth for this summer. It's a free event. And it also precedes Nehemiah Fest in September. And a lot of Christian bands come to that, and it's a camping event. But anyway, met him there. Started my Fulfill Your Ministry radio show on Kearney Community Radio in December of 18 and went through May of 19. Had Dave on that.
So he's been on another podcast.
Yeah.
A
lot of the people that will be on this podcast have also been on that show, been on my podcast.
That's such a blessing to have these people.
And I've maintained long-term relationships with them.
You're good at that. Yeah.
So had him on that, had him on my podcast. And Dave has been one of the two Christian artists who have been gracious enough to say, hey, you can use my music for your show. I have devotions on my website. So I've already done a couple of Fulfill Your Ministry Moments audio devotions on the Fulfill Your Men of the Potter's Hands podcast site. And I just did another one this morning with Dave's music and one of the devotions on his site called The Tale of Two Good Samaritans.
That's a good one.
And we just stayed until we've had coffee together. So he's my friend. He's my brother in Christ. He's a sax artist.
Yeah.
SoaringSaxman.com. Go check that out. He's got a ton of content on that. He's got YouTube videos. He's got a blog. He's got testimonials. He's got a merch store. You can find those devotionals under blog on there. He's got lots of great content on there. But the most important thing is he's a born-again brother in Christ. So he uses his music as a ministry to connect other people with Christ. And that's what it's all about. And I believe that he's carrying on what God says. A lot of people in a lot of churches have a thing about instruments. Can't have this instrument or that instrument or whatever. But, there's like 7 scriptures I'm looking at, all in the Psalms here, that talk about praising God on instruments. Yeah. And that's exactly what Dave's doing. He's praising on a saxophone and working with other Christian artists that are using other instruments for the praise of God's glory.
That's so good.
So I knew he'd be a great fit to be here on Faith
That's great. That's great.
Here,
yeah, thank you for being here, Dave.
Thanks for having me.
So is the shirt that you're wearing, is that one of your pieces of merchandise?
This is one of a few shirts that I have designed on my
cool.
website. This also comes in on a mug, a white mug or a black mug.
Great.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
So I have other shirts at my site, SoaringSaxman.com, at the store, along with the music. So, it's a really cool shirt.
Yeah, I didn't know that he had a merch store. That's why I decided to point out that, hey, he's wearing his merchandise anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, we in the podcast studio, we've always had this little guy, and he's a saxophone guy, and he's always been on the shelf. But we brought him out and stuck him on the table because we got a saxophone
Looks
person
cool, yeah.
Anyway, I was talking to you before the show. I've been in churches where they've allowed a saxophone to be on the stage. I mean, it just brings such a different level of thinking thing. Yeah. So how did you just tell us a story about how you came to Christ first of all, and how that all worked out for you?
Sure. I grew up in Chicago as Catholic.
Okay, yeah.
For several years, my dad always taught us
Catholic
about
is Christian too.
Yeah, so my dad always taught us about Jesus and what he did.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of had the basics. Yeah, Jesus died for the cross, that sort of thing, and we're supposed to do good, things like that. And then when I got into, college or high school, I think it was like college, I was kind of getting, Catholic Church is just kind of getting, it just wasn't doing it for me. So I kind of got on a search. As a musician, I used to hang around with other musicians. I met a bunch of other musicians who were kind of involved with this Buddhist thing.
Yeah,
so I said, And they were talking about it, and I said, it sounds interesting. I explored that for a little bit, and then after that I said, it's empty. That there's something there, that I see what drives people to it. But for me, I felt, there's still something that's empty because they denied God. And I says, no, I know God. I know Jesus exists. So then I got connected into the Willow Creek Community Church out in the Chicago area, and then one thing that really impressed me, they had a full-piece jazz band. I'm like, whoa! I was like, and then they were just presenting the message in a new way. That just like, wow, I never thought about it like that before.
Oh, that's so good, yeah.
So I spent time there, just making sure that was the place I wanted to hang out. And then I just called and says, I'm a saxophone player. And they says, okay, come by for an audition. So I spent 10 years at the Willow Creek, playing in the orchestra, the jazz band, having a great time.
Well,
and then we moved out to Kansas City. So that was at that time, it was really hard to leave that group.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Kansas City is this where jazz started?
It's one of the big places.
I was going to say, I mean, because it's definitely, it's probably in Chicago too, but Chicago.
Well,
New Orleans.
Yeah, Kansas City had the Hey A Club.
Okay.
We had a Capone. They had Pendergrass. I mean, there's a great history on Pendergrass, if you want to go back to those days, there's a lot of cool history. It's like, wow, rough history.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's another person I know. He was one of the leaders at a Boy Scout group that I used to be a part of, and he started a liquor store in town that has to do with that Pendergast. It's so anyway, but it's a great place right there in Maine. If you have no liquor problem, just go grab. He's got some good stuff down there. So,
but jazz was when I first moved out to KC. I don't know, I think it was the late '80s, early '90s. Jazz was really popular here, but then over time it just kind of dispersed.
It's kind of faded out, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they had cool. It just kind of.
We even have the Jazz Museum downtown.
Yeah, that's really cool. So. Yeah, I mean, I know Count Basie spent a lot of time here, and some of the other cool cats of his group spent time here in Kansas City.
Yeah, I forgot about that. People become cats once they get into jazz.
Yeah.
Hey, there's no dogs in jazz.
That's right. There's only cats in jazz. I can't think of his name, but Kansas City used to have a big jazz presence. They're just kind of
that's so
dispersed.
Cool. So how did you get into jazz? I mean, because you said that you started playing jazz at the church in Willow Creek, but I'm assuming you said you already learned it before.
Well,
when did you have an interest in it?
I always enjoyed listening to, when growing up, my dad was really heavily in music. He loved music. We would listen to a lot of music. Good. He actually had over 1,000 albums collection. He would be buying music all the time.
Oh, wow.
Anybody and everything, But my mom had a collection of these old 78 records.
Oh, wow.
And they were like some of the early jazz, Tommy Dorsey, Jimmy Dorsey, Benny Goodman. And at the time when I was into high school, I was playing clarinet. I started clarinet when I was like 5th grade, and I would just love listening to the swing era. I mean, I just and the jazz clarinet sound. So I would just start playing stuff on the clarinet, real jazzy kind of thing, because I just really loved how to do that. And then when I got to high school, my jazz band director says, "Man, you got such a strong jazz background. We got to get you in jazz band."
Yeah.
So then I picked up the sax because they had a baritone sax. They needed someone to play.
But did you start with the sax? Was that your first choice?
No, I started with clarinet.
I thought you said that you had even looked at maybe possibly playing the trumpet.
Initially, I wanted to play trumpet.
But then your friends were like, they were all doing that.
Yeah, all my friends then were playing clarinet. Then I had a tough decision. So at the last minute, I says, "Okay, I'll go with clarinet." So
yeah, and then we talked a little bit about how you said is actually, and I don't understand all this, but you said the dynamics between the clarinet and the sax. The clarinet's actually, it's easier to move from the clarinet to sax than it is from sax to clarinet.
Yes, because the technique and the embouchure, you have to have more muscle and strength to push air through a clarinet than saxophone.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I advise young kids, you start on clarinet, then go to sax, then you got 2 instruments you could play.
So start with clarinet and then
go
to sax.
Yeah.
And you'll appreciate it more.
If you go from sax to clarinet, it's going to be very, very difficult.
You might not make it. Yeah. Well, that's so cool. Yeah. So you started playing you said the baritone sax?
I played baritone sax.
In high school?
Yeah, in high school in the jazz band.
But they had an old one. Did they have an old one? Is that what you said? Or?
They had one. It was a school.
Okay, it was a school one.
So,
yeah, obviously.
Yeah, but when I graduated college, I did buy my own baritone sax. 'Cause I played baritone sax through college, and I played baritone sax through the Willow Creek. I love the sound of a baritone sax when you got a full jazz band.
Oh, wow.
It just gives it that low end. That if you ever listen to like Tower of Power, I mean, the Doc Kupka, baritone sax player, he's the king of baritone sax.
Wow, that's so
he
good.
he just gives a section the kick and the oomph to that section.
That's so good. And so in the sax, so do you just play baritone sax?
No, I play baritone sax, but then when I came to Kansas City, I was doing more, more solo leads. So, I mean, when I was in Chicago, I picked up a tenor sax because I was playing tenor sax and baritone sax in Willow Creek because I wanted to get all the saxophones. So when I came to Kansas City, I got a good alto and picked up a soprano sax.
So when you're doing a solo sax event, what is the best saxophone to play? Is it...
I gravitate towards the alto sax and the soprano sax.
Okay, because you can do more range with that, or
well, it's just I gravitate towards that. Some people love the tenor sax and soprano sax.
Okay.
Once in a while, pull out the baritone. If you go to my YouTube, I did a Christmas video on baritone called "My Blue Christmas" by Elvis. Yeah. I have a tree decorated in blue lights playing baritone sax.
Oh, cool!
Very cool.
And I call it my Berry Blue Christmas.
We'll post. Let's just make sure we post that YouTube video when we post this.
It's a Christmas one, but it's cool.
That way, people can at least see him playing the sax. That's kind of cool. So. All right, well, that's really cool, man. Yeah. So do you do all sorts of events, or?
I do all kinds of events, festivals, churches, private parties. Most of the work I do is private parties.
Oh, cool.
I did the strangest event or the most unique event was playing in a dentist office.
Okay.
My wife was at a dentist's office this morning. Maybe you should have been there for her.
I mean, I got this call from a lady. I guess the dentist was her brother, and she wanted to surprise him on his birthday.
Oh my
He goes, "Can you go play sax?" I could if it doesn't disturb people in the waiting.
Oh my God.
I mean, it was towards the end of the day, and I just sat there and played in the dentist office in the waiting room. So
I bet you the dentist appreciated
that.
Yeah,
he loved it.
They did. I don't know about the patients.
There wasn't too many people in the waiting room with their aching teeth.
Their aching tooth.
But that was the most unique gig I've ever had.
So is there any stories that you have of unique things that have happened when you're doing the?
Oh, I'm sure there is. I'm trying to.
Yeah, I didn't know if there was anything that was like you got somewhere and you're like, oh gosh, I didn't realize we were going to do that, and then we're going to do this, and oh my gosh, wow. Have people signed you up for stuff that you didn't realize?
Trying to think. I mean, no, they always tell me that if they want to book me or something.
So normally, a normal event for you would be like what, about an hour or so?
It depends. Sometimes an hour. Sometimes it could be anywhere from 1 hour to 4 hours.
Oh wow, that's a lot of sax.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes a 4 hour. I mean, they could be nice. I've done private parties where people are over a nice lake. You could tell there's a lot of people there. People who have money. But it's really nice. I mean, nice weather. You meet a lot of people. You take breaks. They feed you. They say, "Hey, any drink?" So
then you just go do another set.
Another set.
So So have you ever produced a CD before? Or
I have 3 CDs out.
Okay,
and
cool.
I got 2 released singles.
Okay,
right now.
Cool. And so how many songs would that be if you had?
They were probably
20, 30?
I'd say about almost 30.
Yeah, 30 songs. Yeah, so you do have. I mean, so you basically just go. I'm assuming you would go through your sets when you're in these parties.
I do a combination of my songs and I do some popular classics.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I love some of the classic rock songs.
So you'll cover a decent.
I do covers,
but
I do a lot of my own material. Yeah, if I hear a song on there, I go, "Oh, that's a cool song. I got it."
Oh, that's so cool. So then, if people want to sign up with you, is there a set amount of money that they would pay, or
I work with their budget. I give them a budget. They say this is how much music we want, and I tell them that's how much it's going to be. Now, if there's travel, so I'm getting bids from Omaha, so then you got to put in the travel expenses.
Oh well, yeah, because you have to get a hotel and then you rental
travel,
car,
the car,
yeah.
time in the car, hotel if need, So there are
Christmas,
expenses.
Yeah.
But no, I mean,
it's a whole world.
I've done it.
You know?
I mean,
It's
I've quoted. I've traveled.
So you're doing this on as a profitable side gig.
Yes.
You have a full-time job right now.
Yeah, I have a full-time job.
So you do have a full-time job.
Yes.
So this is just gravy. Money on and over the top. Hallelujah.
Yeah, but it does a lot. People don't realize it is a lot of work.
No. Yeah, I didn't say it's not a lot of work. It's a ton of work, but this is helpful to just add more money to what you already have. Sure. But you have a side.
And I told him when I very first met him, when I believe I said it on the Fulfill Your Ministry radio show and probably on my podcast, and I'll tell people here, doesn't he look like Kenny G? He's a sax player, and I swear he looks like Kenny G.
You do have a saxophone look to you.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was at a just some church stuff. So anyway, we got talked before we started the podcast just about how once we get to heaven, I think sound's going to actually have like color. There's going to be maybe even flavor to sound. You know what I mean? There's just so many different ways that we'll be able to experience heaven, right?
Yeah, I don't think you can fathom it because all of our senses will be way beyond what we could even imagine.
Right.
Our sight, our hearing, our seeing.
Yeah.
It's going to be a whole nother dimension, whole nother realm.
So the reason why I brought that up is I just feel like, like with just normal instruments like, guitars, pianos, they can do a nice job of, bringing in presence. I feel like almost like you need multiples of them in order to really create a room environment or to like encompass a whole room. But I feel like the saxophone, man, really just digs in and just takes it to a whole nother level, So anyway.
I've experienced that where you just feel like, wow, it's just going to a different level.
Yeah, it's just a whole nother world. It's like you're listening to, it's like, I would say the only instrument that would be similar to it, which is not the same. I mean, it's a string, is a violin. The violin and the saxophone are probably similar in like they're taking music to another level.
Yeah.
Because the violin can do, it could do the same thing on a stage,
Sure.
Whereas a saxophone, anyway, but saxophones can do standalones. Anyway, we were down at I forgot the name of the church. It was down in, it was Solomon's Porch. That was called Solomon's Porch.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
And they had a saxophone artist. That guy was just ridiculous. He'd be up there and we'd be doing worship. And then this guy would just go off on a sax note for like 3 minutes and everybody would just be like laying on the ground after this guy's done. I mean, it's just so legit,
That's cool.
I mean, because he just took it to a whole nother level. It's like you take normal worship and then it just went.
Yeah.
It's like a whole nother spiritual event.
Sure.
It's totally true though. So anyway, I really appreciate people who have taken the time to develop that skill.
Yeah.
So because it is a labor of love, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So anyway,
another thing I love that Dave and I have in common is, once he got introduced to the saxophone, and like he said, his mother had interest in the Tommy Dorsey.
I love
And a little tidbit of trivia here: the sax was introduced by a guy named Adolphe Sax in the 1840s,
Adolphe Sax,
and then it became really prominent in the rise of jazz in the 1920s and 1940s.
Yeah.
And so that's what his mom enjoyed, and I totally enjoy that kind of music.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
I have a friend that did a radio show when I was on Liberty, and he's been on podcast sites and stuff like that with it, and it was called. I can't even remember the name of the show now. But anyway, he played a lot of stuff from the 1930s, 40s, and 40s, 50s, and 60s. And once I started listening to that, it really got me into that area. And I've got a lot of vinyl at home from that era. I've got stations on my Pandora that I listen to that are from that era.
I was going to say there's a lot of decent vinyl with saxophones
Yeah.
on it.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's interesting, and the sound of the sax back then is completely different than like when you got into like I guess the 80s, like when Spyro Gyra or David Sanborn came in.
Yeah.
If you listen to it, here you got this really cool sax doing these swinging things more in the I guess the tonal quality was a little bit more mellow or kind of
Yeah.
subdued. But then when you hear like Spyro Gyra or David Sanborn come in, now it's just screaming and wailing, which
Oh,
I kind of gravitate towards because I used to play in rock bands,
Yeah.
and I would do guitar leads with on sax, you know, those and it would freak the guitar players out.
And another thing is a lot of the 1960s, 1970s TV show themes
Yeah.
were done by a lot of the guys from the 1940s,
Yeah,
50s,
yeah.
and 60s.
Oh, that's great, yeah.
Era
Yeah.
of music, and a lot of them were could have been sax artists and things like that.
Yeah.
So and I'm a huge fan of classic TV and movies. So I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
a lot. I could go on all day long about the different TV shows that I loved that were.
Oh, I know
theme
that-
songs were Emergency.
Okay.
Adam 12, a lot of those shows have theme songs that were done by
Sanford and
guys.
Son, that sax in
Yeah,
there.
yeah, Sanford and Son,
Yeah,
yeah,
that was one
absolutely.
of them. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Benny
Right.
Hill had the yakety sax.
Yeah.
That's always
a
a fun,
lot
cool
of classic
tune.
TV shows had a lot of theme songs done by a lot of classic, era guys. So
Well, yeah. Well, thanks for being here, Dave.
I really loved
so,
it, yeah.
So your website is soaringsaxman.com, and then
Right.
we'll post that on the show and then
Great,
on the
great.
YouTube video. And if you ever want to hire
Yeah.
Dave Panico,
Right.
you want to hire? Every time I remember he's Italian, I'm just like, oh god. we have a history of Italian.
I grew
We have
up
a
with
history of
Italian. My best
Italian.
friend since fourth grade
Yeah,
is Italian. the
yeah,
Bernards,
yeah, whatever.
And the Bernards have a lot of history in Kansas City. They used to have an Italian restaurant up on Choteau
Yeah,
Traffic.
my wife is Colombian and Mexican. So anyway, I'm married to the Colombians, the Italians. We got the
we
Italian.
love you anyway.
Anyway.
That's all right.
Anyway, I'm just a Christian. I'm just an American mutt. I'm
Yeah,
from everywhere,
well,
everywhere. Anyway, and so if you want to hire him for a gig, a wedding, a private party, festivals, churches, you can have
to
him
churches,
at
do
church
ministry,
event.
yeah.
I bet you could do like a nice Christmas event too, probably.
Yeah. Oh, I
right?
do. Yeah.
Yeah, a nice
busy
Christmas
time,
event. Yeah. So if you ever wanted to have him out at your church or just a local place.
Sure. Yeah.
And so it's just really cool to have you, and thanks for
I appreciate
sharing
it.
your
Thank you.
story with us. And then also, David Panico has he has merchandise, so you need to be
Yes.
buying tons of merchandise.
Yeah. Just go to the
This
website. The shirt.
the coffee cups. He's
It
got what
comes-
else you got?
Yeah, the shirts. I have 3 different shirts.
Yeah.
They come in different colors.
Yeah.
The mugs only have the blue sax. You can get a white mug with a blue sax or a black mug with the blue sax.
Okay, cool.
Very cool. I got the black mug. It's a very, very cool thing. So
Yeah.
you got to check it out. I mean, this is the only place you're going to get a cool shirt like that.
There you go.
Nowhere else.
legit.
So-
We need to get you into the Made in KC stores and
They-
have you
Yeah,
your little thing
Oh.
put there.
So
Anyway, but yeah, if you want to support him, and that you could either hire him or buy his merchandise. So anyway, just thank you, David Panico. Thanks for being on the show.
thanks. Appreciate it.
All right.
Loved it.
God bless.
Yeah.